What's going on, guys? My name is Arrow, and in today's video, I am bringing you a guide for the best build that I have ever played. Oh, I just tanked that. I somehow misread that entirely. So we have Poison Summon Raging Spirit Necromancer. There's been a couple of versions of this that have already been put out, but I wanted to put my spin on it. I was successful at killing every single Uber boss, feared, Uber Elder with even influence, the Deathless Wave 30 Simulacrum, which you can see in the background right now. In a little bit, you'll see some footage from an 80% maximum juice deli map that we ran, and it really does everything well. There's nothing that this build can't do as far as I've tested, and it excels pretty much at everything. Those of you who watch my channel know that I cannot stand doing Ubers. So if I can kill the Ubers with it, you can. Let's talk about some of the defensive layers of this build because it is so tanky. It is hard to die with this build. We have 100% avoidance of ailments from the Storm Shroud Jewel and our boots. We have 100% spell suppression. This can be a little bit difficult to get. You have to get pretty much perfect crafts on a few of your pieces of gear. But if you are willing to go, let's say 90% spell suppression, you can use like a quartz flask. There's some other ways around it, but the easiest way to get 100% is to just craft perfect gear. So I used fractured spell suppress gloves, helmet, and boots to get there. But we get to 100% spell suppression. We have almost perfect block. We have max attack block and almost max spell block. I think we're like maybe 4 short. We have a large amount of life regeneration. I think it's around 800 or 900. We have a large energy shield pool, which we use for Eldritch Battery and also Mind Over Matter. And we keep that pool topped off with Divine Shield on the tree for regen when we mitigate fizz damage, and also from the Aegis Aurora Shield. We very rarely take hits big enough to get through our giant pool of ES. So you're always just kind of recovering small amounts of life in ES at the same time. Because of the Mind Over Matter and EB setup, you pretty much just never feel like you're in danger. Now, I didn't go around seeing what the biggest hits I could tank were, but in just about every fight, the only time I died was when a flurry of bad things happened, you know, standing in the minus fire res degen from Exarch and then tanking balls. That's going to kill just about any build. Like I said, I am not a super mechanically talented player, so these Ubers, which again, I also don't do very often, I was able to do several of them deathless. And then I think the hardest one for me, Exarch, but I just can't dodge the ball. I can't do it. Can't dodge the balls. So we also get a large amount of armor and some evasion. The nice thing about evasion is you don't need a ton for it to feel really good. So we just have basically a flask to get us to like 50% evasion on top of our armor and our block. And then we get about 30,000 armor. We use the Progenesis flask, which gives us a percentage of our damage taken to our life as degen. And like I said, we don't often take big hits to our life, so that even further mitigates how much damage that we basically just cast your SRS and you move. That's it, all the way through the maps, through the delve, through the simulacrum, and around bosses. It's a very simple play style, and I had a blast with it. Offensively, we're scaling poison damage for our minions. Very important that you get a few abyssal jewels that have minion poison chance on them. That'll allow us to get to 100% chance to poison. It's a very important stat for us to have. 60% comes from our sword, unique sword, so you don't have to get a ton, but you do need to get 40%. And there is a little bit of ramp time that happens with this build. You don't really notice it on any of the non-pinnacle content. Most rares just fall right over, but we'll notice some ramp time on some of the bigger bosses. But we have a good amount of poison duration, so it's not, you know, it's not all fake damage coming from temp chain. It's really nice, accessible DPS. All right, so here we have our level 97 Necromancer. We're going to talk about each gear piece and go through everything, but please know that I do have a Maxroll article on this build. If you want to go check it out, maxroll.gg, there will be a link in the description, so that will take you to a full breakdown of every piece here in the build, every gem, every interaction. So go check that out. But for now, let's just do a quick review of all the gear that we have. For the United in Dream, this is kind of the core of our offense here. We get a bunch of damage. It gives us the Envy skill, which we then support by Awakened Generosity. It gives us 60% chance to poison enemies, our minions, which is really nice because getting poison chance can be tough. It gives our minions some chaos res and also leech. This is not only best in slot, but absolutely mandatory. You have to use them. The helmet, you have some options here. You want to go probably a fractured spell suppress helmet, and then you can try to roll it for +1 or +2 minion skill gems. That is super expensive. It's not cheap to do, but it is really nice quality of life. Things like your Animate Guardian, It gives it more survivability, but this can be pretty tough to craft. I actually never even got an enchant on this, and I still took down everything in the game. If you get something like Malevolence, Reservation Efficiency, that really eases up the need for reservation efficiency on other pieces. We have a perfect res ashes here, but you wouldn't need that if you were to have of some kind. So besides that, we just get some resists and some life. You're going to find that most of the rares are like that. You want spell suppress, you want life, you want res. The shield, we have an Aegis Aurora. This one has some spell block on it. This helps us get towards cap. If you don't get this implicit, that's fine. I think you'll be at like 68% spell block, which alongside of our spell suppression is more than enough. Ashes of the Stars, an important point here, 27 quality is enough to get us the next additional SRS. So Divergent gives you additional, and if you get 50 total quality on it, you'll get up to 5 additional SRS. Now, being at 24 and 20 instead of 25 is not a huge deal, but just make sure that if you do want that, you need to make sure you have a 23 quality gem and 27 or a 30 quality ashes. Talk about the rings. Basically, just got a ton of chaos res on this one. You get capped, and then life and fire res. Something like this is actually not that difficult to craft. If you get one fractured mod, you can just roll with some fossils or do something like Reforge Chaos in Harvest, and you'll end up with something similar to this pretty easily. Bone Ring, there's actually not a lot of minion mods that can roll on these. So we started with a fractured one that have attack speed, which is a really, really nice damage boost. And then you just roll minion fossils. You don't actually need the minion res on here. Just one bone ring will cap our minion res. So that's actually a dead mod. And I just didn't feel like spending the currency on it. Or the chest, the Covenant. The Covenant is, again, best in slot, not even close. You can get some really, really nice corruptions on here, but I didn't want to play this build with, I actually have +2. I have a +2 minion. This is going to be a lot more expensive, but you can get really, really good implicits. You can get +1, you can get +2 duration, you can get just generic damage. All of those are really, really strong, and I would recommend getting a corrupted version. For our gloves, huge amount of spell suppression here. We get some from the implicit and fractured spell suppress. We're at like 96% on my current iteration of the build. In the POB, I updated it to get to 100, and it shows you how to get there. So things you can get on here, again, we need Dex in the build. You have to have it. Then Chaos Res. The +2 gems is fine, mostly for our Despair in here. That's all it really is offering us. And I think one more additional block chance we get out of Divergent Bone Offering by having the +2. For the boots, you want to get something that has, again, spell suppression, but also a shock implicit from Eater and Exarch, and then a shock essence. That'll get us 100% chance to avoid being shocked, and alongside the Storm Shroud Jewel, that gives us full ailment avoidance, which is so cozy. Besides that, you just want to get some life, and again, we need a dex, so we got it here. On the belt, the double life Hunter Stygian is probably the best way to go here. I know a lot of people like to run the Darkness and Throne belt with 2 jewels, but because you don't need more than 40% poison chance, I actually found this to be a much nicer total package by having 1 jewel as well as all of this incredible stuff that we can get. You can get life, flask charges, you can get flask effect, and then double res. I found this to be a little bit better than the Darkness and Throne. It's obviously far more expensive than a 5C unique belt, but this is a huge amount of life that we wouldn't have access to otherwise. We'll talk about the Flasks. Progenesis, this thing is just good. You could slap this into almost any build, and it's fantastic. Not much to say here, but if you can afford it, put it in your build. 25% of life loss occurs over 4 seconds, which is basically, for a build that regens a lot, just 25% less damage taken. We have a Jade Flask in here. Now, on Uber bosses, we swap in this Life Flask, which is a really nice form of recovery against those huge hits that you can take against Ubers and also big degens, but evasion's not very effective against Ubers, so I would swap the Life Flask then. We use a Roomies to get to block cap. We have a movement speed flask with movement speed on it, and then an Onslaught Flask because we have no way to get Onslaught as a minion build besides this, so this is really nice quality of life as well. Then armor, movement speed, and evasion for the suffixes, and not too much exciting stuff going on there. Go through the gems. We have a flame dash. Because we have ashes, a lot of these alt qualities are much stronger than they would otherwise be. So that's why we go for things like anomalous flame dash. We have 50% increased movement distance almost. So our flame dash goes a long way. If you like, you could go for a regular flame dash, which gives you cooldown recovery, and then your flame dash is going to be up way more often. I didn't find that to be necessary, but it is another really nice quality of life option. We have Awakened Generosity, not linked to anything in here, just for our 25 Envy that is in the sword. This just makes us give a lot more damage to our minions. We have a level 19 Vitality in here. The reason that it's 19 is because I don't have the mana reservation to get one more level out of it. Again, we don't have a helmet enchant, so if we went for a, say, Malevolence Reservation Efficiency enchant, we would easily be able to fit that in. In the helmet, we have a couple of auras. We have Divergent Malevolence for increased damage to enemies, and Tempest Shield. If you use I believe the Divergent version, that gives you a bunch more spell block. I highly recommend that. I did not use it in this build. It was expensive at the time, and I just didn't feel like spending any currency on this. And again, I did all the content in the game without it. But if you do want more spell block, the version that gives you more spell block from quality is the one you want. Then we have Haste and Vol Haste on a Divine Blessing. You're going to have these up a lot of the times. It's just a ton more move speed for you and your minions, and also gives them a lot more attack speed. We have our Determination here in our shield, as well as Stone Golem. We went Anomalous for the buff effect. And then Feeding Frenzy. This is really important. You put this on your Stone Golem. It makes your Stone Golem aggressive. And then when it hits enemies, you get the Feeding Frenzy buff, which is move speed and more damage for your minion. In our boots, we have our utility minions. We have the Divergent Animate Guardian and the Anomalous Ray Spectre. We went for Anomalous for the minion life, and the Divergent Animate Guardian for the increased maximum life, which is a huge amount of life. Our Animate Guardian has 87,000 life. So this is a 20 gem that is up to 26 with the additional support. So ton of life for the AG. I don't have very expensive gear on him because I can't stand spending 20 divines when he dies to an Uber boss. So we have a really nice budget version that gives bonuses, but we're not using Kingmaker and things like that. For our Spectres, we are using the Pale Seraphim, which gives some nice bonuses. I have those listed in the POB, as well as the Arena Master. We have 2 Arena Masters. You can swap one of these out for like the Frenzy Charge, Carnage Chieftain, I think it's called. But having 2 of these means you get the action speed buff more often. It's not super important. It's just kind of whatever one you really want to use. When a build gets to this power level, these sorts of distinctions become much smaller. Our Arcanist brand setup in our gloves, we go Arcanist brand, Virgin Bone Offering. When this is cast, gives us a bunch more block, and it also casts Desecrate, so our Bone Offering lasts longer because it consumes corpses when it is cast. As well, we have our Anomalous Despair on here, which is just a bunch for our minions. So it is important to keep this Arcanist brand up when you are fighting against difficult enemies. I forget a lot because this build feels so powerful that you often forget to do it, but if you don't have it up for Uber bosses, there's a lot of your block, a lot of your damage. And then our main 6-link, we have a 2023 Divergent Summon Raging Spirit. The reason I have the 2023 is because I don't have the 30 Ashes, and I wanted the 1 additional Summon Raging Spirit. Not that big of a deal. Again, 24 to 25 is a small damage boost, but I preferred it over the +1 just because it's cleaner this way. We have Awaken Unleash, so we can cast faster, cast several minions at a time. Awaken Unbound Ailments for damage. Withering Touch gives us 100% uptime of max Wither. Because our minions are hitting so much, that 25% chance to inflict Wither on hit means 25 minions hitting a bunch of times per second is instantly going to ramp you up to 15 stacks. It also gives some Fizz's extra chaos, which is a nice damage. We use Awakened Minion damage as well for +1 and more damage. But also, we have our last link here, which we swap out for mapping and technical bosses. Divergent Multi-Strike is a much cheaper form of Awakened Multi-Strike, and it's almost as good, not quite. It's like 10% less damage, but it's better than the regular version. So during boss fights, swap into Divergent Multi-Strike or Awakened if you can afford it. And then while mapping, use Awakened Melee Splash. And that is it for the gems. Let's jump in and talk about the Ascendancy. So for starters, you want to go Commander of Darkness. This is just a wonderful all-around node. It gives us res for us and our minions, gives us damage for our minions, and then we get a bunch more attack speed. Then we have Mindless Aggression, again, generic move speed, damage, and attack speed. After that, we take Mistress of Sacrifice, which makes it so our Bone Offering applies to us as well, so we get a max block that way. And then lastly, Bone Barrier. Bone Barrier is what grants us Bone Armor, which is a stronger version of Steel Skin. So we have that on our left click, so we're getting immunity to bleeding from that. It's up a good amount of the time. Bone Barrier also gives us some really nice buffs, some additional physical damage reduction, increased recovery rate of life. Yes. For our tree, a lot of people like to use 12 passive minion clusters, but I didn't find that the damage from them was worth it. So what we went for was 8 that have Call to the Slaughter, which is huge damage, and then just two jewel sockets. We need so many jewel sockets in this build that this is really, really nice quality of life to just take these nodes that aren't like insane damage, but to give us access to these jewel slots. Things that you want on your jewel slots, you have to get 40% total poison chance. Minions deal increased damage if you've used a minion skill recently is huge. You want to get life, you want to get corrupted blood immunity somewhere. My jewels are not amazing, they're just fine. So this is a great place to upgrade the build if you'd like to do so. We get some spell suppression over here. We take a lot of the minion damage nodes. Path around this way, we take another large cluster. Here we have Void Beacon from the Occultist Ascendancy, where enemies that are nearby have negative cold res, and also cannot regen life, which is super nice quality of life. Over here we have a Green Nightmare. This is mandatory to get us to spell suppress cap, and you have to take all 4 of these points to take full advantage of it. Then besides that, we're just basically taking some life where we can and trying to get a little tankier. For our Sanctified Relic, I wanted to briefly talk about this because I know we're moving towards the end of the league and I want this to be a kind of evergreen build guide. This is just movement speed for our minions. So we didn't do anything crazy here. There's no keystone. We could have taken Eldritch Battery and put it on here, but like I said, I wanted this build to work without a relic. So move speed is nice, but it's not really changing the build at all. So that is going to be it from me. If you want more information about this build, go to the link in the description, maxroll.gg. I have a very, very detailed guide there that explains everything you need to know, probably more than you could ever want. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my content, you can support me at the link below, the Patreon. Appreciate you all so much. Thank you for all the views and all the subs on Twitch. Go check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/800_. We have a lot of fun over there, so check us out. And thank you so much for watching. Always, take care.